Action.
Thank you, Elder Peterson, for taking the time to interview with me and for my classmates as well. I want to ask you, what is your position here at Evangel Fellowship pertaining to the outreach program? What is it that you do, and how long have you been here?
Well, I'm the outreach director here at Evangel Fellowship. I've been working with Evangel Fellowship now for about 1 year. And what the outreach director does is actually all the outreach outside of the church. There's an in-reach aspect and there's an outreach aspect. Whatever deals with the community, that's my part. And so far we've done street ministry, we've done back-to-school revival. We're meeting with some youth in the community now. We've opened a gym on Wednesday night so that people and young people in the neighborhood can come in. And as a result, we've started mentoring some young boys and trying to get them discipled into the things of God.
Wow. So you've seen lives change because of this outreach program?
I have, and not only that, but we've been going out into the different communities. In this community itself, there's about 10 apartment houses that are Section 8. And back in the summer, before it got cold, we would take out tables on a van, we would take out box of clothes, we would spread them out on the tables in that particular neighborhood, and we'll knock on every door. The people would come out. And so not only are we inviting people to church, but we're investing in their lives as well.
Yeah, so outside of the Word of God, you guys also meet their physical needs and basic necessities and things like that.
Right, right. And I think people are more apt to come out and be a part of your ministry if they see you investing in their lives.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And Elder, will you tell us what are your affiliations with the Malachi House?
Well, I was with the Malachi House for 12 years. And for the last 7 years, however, actually for the last 7 years, I was the program director at the Malachi House. Okay. And I started with the Malachi House. The first couple years was on a volunteer basis. As I said, my thought was always that it's not hard for us to recognize what God is calling us to if we can remember and reflect on where He's brought us from. And I have a background of being a crack addict as well as an alcoholic. And so when I got saved, I just dabbed right into the Malachi House. I thought that was the place for me to be.
Wow. Will you tell us a little bit about your past or how that led you to go to the Malachi House?
Well, you know what? I came to North Carolina A&T in 1993, spring of 1993. By 1997, I was working and living off campus, and I was working at a beer distribution company, and one of the drivers was a drug dealer, and I started out selling marijuana for him and then graduated to crack cocaine. I was living off campus and having parties and selling cocaine, and then I got hooked, and I stayed on crack cocaine for about 3.5 years. About 1.5 years out of that 3.5 years, I was homeless, living on park benches, standing on street corners bumming change for alcohol, you name it, I did it, living in the rock houses or the crack houses, and even ate out of the garbage can before. And gave my life to the Lord in 1992, and that was instant rehabilitation for me by the grace of God.
And how did you end up at Malachi House? Or
well, what happened was after I came into the church at Evangel, Pastor Lockett, being the founder of the Malachi House, he thought that the Malachi House would be a great place for me to start off serving. And so I started serving there as, first of all, volunteering, just going to the groups. And then I started doing the support groups. I did the support groups for the Malachi House for about 2.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And being that you're a staff member here at Evangel Fellowship, can you give us a better understanding of the church's contribution to the Malachi House? Like, what are some things that this church does for that agency? Or
well, in the beginning, the Malachi House was directly a part of Evangel Fellowship. Because the Malachi House is an operation that takes a whole lot of money. I think when I left, we had about 60-something students and about 4 or 5 buildings, about 8 or 9 vans. The operation took $1.2 million a year to run. And so we could not do that being directly under the church. So the thing to do was to separate ourselves and become a separate entity. That way, when people donate to us, they won't see us as a part of Evangel Fellowship. Not only that, but we have contracts throughout the region that the guys work at every day. Every guy in the Malachi house has a job to do every day, whether it's a cook on the premises or rather it's a worker at one of the contracts. One of the contracts, for example, is the Guilford County Animal Shelter. We have probably 10 to 15 guys that go out there every day. There's a bicycle store called Performance and Chapel Hill that the guys go to every day. And then we work the furniture market because now the furniture market is seasonal, so we work the furniture market whenever they come in the High Point Furniture Market.
Wow. So Evangel does so much for this organization. And the place where they are now, was that where Evangel used to be? Was that the church that Evangel had before?
Right. The Malachi House purchased that property from Evangel Fellowship. I think it was probably 4 years ago.
4 years ago?
Yeah, 507 Balboa.
Wow. So this organization really helps these men become self-sufficient, to be able to do things on their own and really to help themselves and be a part of society.
Right. And the Malachi House really, they really try to minister to the whole man. As I said, the work that they do helps them to gain a work ethics back, because if you know anything about crack addiction, guys just don't work. Not only that, but they're getting spiritually fed because the executive director is a pastor. They attend his church every Sunday. And then not only that, the physical man as well, because they have weight rooms and they have basketball courts in there for recreation. They have ping pong tables. And so they try to minister to the entire man. Not only that, but they have quarterly meetings where they will meet with the family. And when everybody comes together on that particular day, they have a class for the couples, they have a class for the kids, and they have a class for the men themselves.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So they're helping, they're bringing their families as well, getting them involved.
Right. And the thing about that is that many people don't understand that when a guy is in his addiction and he's married, he's not the only one that needs help, but his wife needs help in that therapeutic environment as well, so that she can recover and they can kind of recover together. Because if he goes back home and she's still dealing with the same issues, that's an opportunity for him to relapse. You understand what I'm saying? Not that it'd be her fault, but because she's not understanding the addiction in the process that this guy has to go through, then she's subject to do some things or say some things that will cause him to go backward instead of forward.
Wow. And what would you tell my classmates and I who will be going into these organizations and working there? And I know that if someone would have given up on you, I think you maybe would have given up on yourself. And what would you tell us to, I guess, keep away from burnout or stay away from burnout and to continue to help these people and to try to understand them? What advice would you give to us?
Well, what I would say is that make sure that you have a balance. When I was at the Malachi House, it was somewhat tedious. It wasn't stressful because that was my call, but it was ongoing. And you have to be able to pull away and be able to get ministered to yourself, or I wouldn't say so much ministered to, but get a break from that particular atmosphere every now and then. But I think that the feel of serving people is one of the greatest fields that you could be in. But I did want to share one of my worst experiences at the Malachi House, because you really have to be prepared for just about anything when you go into that field. But I think one of the saddest times that I experienced is when this guy went home. He went home on a break. And we're always concerned about guys coming back having relapse when they went on their pass. And this guy had relapsed, and we talked to him, and come to find out that his dad was the one that took him to get high on his pass. And I think that was and then there was another experience when a guy went home, and he had been away from the household so much, but he had 2 little kids, and his dad was on the phone with his mom, I believe, and the child asked the mom, when is dad coming to our house? So that he did not affiliate the dad with being a part of that household because he had been going away so much. Yeah. And so for the individual that's going into that field, you have to be emotionally prepared to deal with things like that, because you're going to hear all kinds of stories about individuals, dealing with this addiction. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. You've been so helpful, and I think we will be life changers, I believe. So I thank you so much for your time, Elder.
Oh, no problem. No problem at all.